Chop, cut, mince, craft, boil, eat, repeat. The life of a hunter is hard, especially if you're a vegetarian like Chris Carter controlling one. Monster Hunter's core since 2004 has been predicated on grinding and discovering its own esoteric rules and principles. That hasn't changed a lot in 14 years, but Monster Hunter World's sleekness makes it a whole lot easier. Despite some concessions best epitomized by fireflies known in World as scoutflies, assisting in lighting the path to your prey, this is still very much the same, punishing Monster Hunter. There's a lot of repetition, stat studying, and grinding. Also, you can get one piece of coveted armor at a time. That's basically been Capcom's philosophy on the series for over a decade. Give them incremental quality of life upgrades that are usually standard in other games. Lock-On, for example, being a highly contentious addition for some reason, and keep the old school base intact. That's mostly worked for me, having played most of the series throughout the years. But at some point around Monster Hunter 4, I yearned for a new coat of paint. Most iterations, including the myriad super editions over the years, just felt too similar to one another. World finally overhauls nearly everything from an artistic standpoint and brings it into the current generation. The main camp of Estero looks stunning and picturesque, like a fully realized Rufio camp from Hook. Each location, from the lush ancient forest to the desolate rotten vale, differentiates itself from the pack. But World doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a lot of heart and silliness to it all too, perhaps best encapsulated by the classic absurd Palico cooking sequence. The shift to more open maps makes everything feel like less of a corridor simulator without moving directly into the rote, map full of icons, open world setup that's commonly found in a lot of Western games. There's still going to be repetition in the sense that you're revisiting the same areas, but World generally does a good job of mixing up the enemy layouts or times of day to freshen up repeat excursions. Bringing back expeditions, which are free roam sessions with no time limit or requirements, was a good decision. They're an excellent way to remove some of the stress of the standard Monster Hunter grind with activities like fishing and capturing, with unlimited lives. World still has a rewarding conquest loop. I got my ass kicked by a T-Rex, so I basically reevaluated everything that led me to that moment where he burned me to a crisp. I swapped weapons, which is easy to do since you can downgrade and get your materials back, upgraded a few armor pieces, crafted some more items, grinded out some ingredients for nutrients, a potion that can increase your mat's health, and ate some good food. Bam! T-Rex dude was dead. Boss fights still range from epic, larger-than-life confrontations against insurmountable creatures to mild tedium. While the larger romps are mostly engaging battles featuring ghoulish designs only the Monster Hunter team could come up with, some of the medium to large-sized denizens annoyingly run away and force you to constantly babysit them. This is much easier to deal with when you're playing with friends, as various range and swift builds can catch up to them or cut them off, but going at it solo can be painstakingly slow. Luckily, this sort of thing doesn't happen that often, but when it does, expect to groan. What wows me the most is that it feels like Monster Hunter has finally entered the modern age. Now, I don't mind the old visuals, nor do I require the cutting edge to play something, but the constant rehashing of engines and iterations was really getting to me. Capcom is the king of retouching and reselling the same Ultra or Super editions, and the Monster Hunter series saw plenty of Ultimate and Freedom versions. We're probably going to get Monster Hunter Universe at some point, this is true, but right now it's still crisp and hot out of the oven. It hasn't shed its skin fully either. The sheer breadth of playstyles is staggering, from the quick dual blades to the multiple bowgun ranged options, to the tough but rewarding hunting horn. It's a science at this point, but you can also opt to jump into a stabby or shooty combat style if you want. When you really dig through and start getting to the point where you need to optimize to best some of the bigger beasties, you'll probably be taken aback by some inside baseball type stuff, like the endless pit of bowgun ammo types. There's no new weapons in World, which is a bit of a bummer, but given how well all of the existing ones mesh together, I don't necessarily need more. Crafting has also become more convenient, but not necessarily outright easier. There's a wishlist feature to notify you when you have the proper materials required to create something, and gathering locations are a little more obvious. There's no better typify than with the aforementioned Firefly highlights, otherwise known as breadcrumb trails, in the industry at large, Monster Hunter World's most contentious mechanic. While some may feel like this dumbs down the flow of the game, I like the idea of gaining research points, non-traditional experience that can be spent on things like meals, and you'll earn it when locating points of interest such as footprints or scents. It adds to the whole hunt feel. It's also a little more inviting when you need to hunt down a certain enemy type over and over, when you can trap them directly. This is still Monster Hunter. You'll hunt, upgrade, hunt some more, and basically repeat until you're done with the campaign. Then you can choose to do it some more with extra quests. Capcom is promising more content for the long haul, but as it stands, World feels just as full as any other core release. As for multiplayer, we didn't get much of a chance to extensively test it out, so we'll mostly be reporting on that post-launch over at Destructoid. Right now, lobbies seem to be stable, and the chat/squad system is well implemented. You can emote/message people even during cutscenes and connect with people through groups, which is a good sign. We had a very limited pool of players to choose from, but I could join quests in progress and fire off an SOS flare to signal other people that I needed help. This series is still fun as hell to team up in. If you've been skipping out on Monster Hunter games for a while because they seem to blend together, jumping into World is your chance to get in. Just know that Capcom hasn't really shaken up the formula enough to piss off veterans or appeal to people who don't welcome grinding with open arms. But for more written reviews, be sure to head on over to Destructoid.com.